Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. In Abney Park Cemetery, North London, there is an unusual gravesite, a sleeping lion, a memorial to Frank C. Bostock. Frank was a showman who toured with exotic animals throughout Europe. In 1893, he moved to America and connected the masses with these amazing creatures. He is credited as being the first person to bring a pet lion to the U.S. Frank was known to have been mauled several times, which is thought to have contributed to his early death in 1912 at the age of 46. Was this where the owning of great cats as pets began in the U.S. and continues to this day?
The Lion Week. And as you can see here, this little pet Squeaky the lion makes a wonderful house pet.
The danger factor is always there with these large feline pets, as this old clip shows. Watching it is a little unsettling, but it isn't enough to stop more and more people seeking the unusual as a pet.
Animals are family, and it doesn't matter if it's a tiny little house cat or, a lion or tiger or bear. You have that connection with animals regardless of size. When I was young, I used to think I could save the world. And I was always dragging home misfits, and I worked at a veterinary clinic for a while, and don't put the dog to sleep, I'll find him a home.
Jill Carnegie's passion to save animals has become her lifelong mission. But her focus is not just about rehoming the neighborhood dog. In the town of Sharon, Wisconsin, the Valley of the Kings Sanctuary is home to a large variety of exotic animals. Abused, abandoned, retired, and injured, these large pets aren't for the faint-hearted. And for Jill, having a rebellious streak has led her to this amazing work.
When I was a child, I was always dragging things home and getting into trouble. My mother hates animals. She's 96 years old. She's still alive. And we had many, many discussions about animals, and I ended up getting married young when I was 17 to basically get out of the house. And I married a guy because he had a horse, which is really stupid. But, and then we ended up here. I divorced him in 96 and then remarried Jim, who loves animals as much as I do. We've been married 20 years now.
Jill and Jim are dedicated to looking after the welfare of their animals. Sanctuaries are common in the U.S., so there's a need to rehome. In captivity, big cats have been known to attack humans with devastating results. This horrific scene is testament to what can go wrong. A man trying to feed a couple of circus animals finds out the hard way that a tiger is a predator and one that can strike at any time. The defense is a couple of wooden poles, but the man struggles to save his hand. From minor injuries to permanent disability and even death, it's never wise to assume a big cat is a tame animal, no matter where you might find it. In Jill's sanctuary, there's no crossing of the boundaries, even if one of their residents was once a family pet.
This is Janie. She's grumpy. She hasn't been here very long. She's from a lady in Texas who has cancer, and she couldn't care for her. She was a pet, and she actually adored the lady. She's still adjusting. It'll take her time. The interesting thing is I can come out and she's fine with me. I can give her treats and talk to her, and she rolls over, and I don't go in with her. I wouldn't trust her. She's actually a very sweet cat. She just doesn't like a lot of people. She feels threatened. And she's got to adjust living with a few girls down here, which she's not crazy about. So eventually she'll have a buddy when we get a male lion in. And then we do vasectomies because we don't believe in breeding. So she'll be happy. Callie, hi girl. This was someone's pet. They lived in Florida. She is about 17 years old. And she's been here ever since she's been about 5. She lived in their house till she was about 4 or 5 years old, and she had the run of their backyard. And then they had to move, and no place would allow them to have their lion. Hoorah, come on. Come on, there we go. What a good tiger. You're such a good tiger. He's one of the biggest tigers we have, but we have one that's even larger. And he's 17, so he's not a youngster by any stretch. But he's been here since he was 4 months old. He was somebody's pet in Big Bend, Wisconsin. They bought him illegally from a breeder in Arizona. And then they realized when he was about 4 months old that the furniture and the kids were not safe. And so they did the right thing and brought him out. And then they said, we will never get another exotic again. So thank God for that. He's probably at least, I would put him 1,100 pounds easily. Yeah, he's massive.
There is no doubt Kubla is one very large animal. And with that size comes a big appetite. Tigers rely primarily on sight and sound for hunting. They will see you long before you have any idea they've been sizing you up. A tiger can consume almost 100 pounds of meat at a time. Large prey are no barrier. Even if you've been working with your trained cats for decades, you can never trust a tiger. It only takes one shocking moment to change your life to near death, as this Spanish circus trainer found out during a performance. Kubla doesn't have to go on the prowl for anything but more affection. And with Jill around, that's a given. He's an absolute love bug. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body. But you always have to remember that they're trained and never tamed. They are who they are, and even a good one can cause serious harm. So you just don't want to, especially the older I get, I guess I get smarter too. Yeah, we always take tons and tons of precautions. And in 44 years, we've never had an injury, never had an escape, never had anything happen. Knock on wood. And everything that's come in as babies get huge like this, I think because we feed every day. We don't believe in fasting them. And they get an enormous amount of calcium and vitamins and absolutely everything that they need. Where a lot of private people don't have a clue what the animals should get. We've gotten cougars in with rickets, others with broken bones, and just all kinds of horrible things.
So a zoo will take ground meat, put it on a little platter, slide it under and take it away. So they don't have anything to chew on, and then maybe one day they'll give them bones so they can chew on a bone. But the zoo cats that we've gotten in have had slab fractures, really bad teeth that our vets have had to put back together again. These guys, ones that have come in when they're young that we've raised, even when they're senior citizens and we knock them out, their teeth are absolutely pristine because they get everything that they need, the hide, the bone, just everything. Plus they get supplements.
Jill feels right at home with these enormous cats. These are her adored pets. But when the need arose, she took a big step out of her comfort zone to start welcoming large Syrian grizzlies to the sanctuary.
So gentle, yeah. Which at first I was like, grizzly bears? I don't think so. And when I saw them and how gentle they were, I'm like, okay, this could be doable.
Jill's not at ease with these enormous bears, but is growing to like having them around. However, choosing to hang out with these massive predators inside the cage, knowing they're capable of suddenly turning on anyone, isn't a choice for most of us. Is this bravery or a death wish? Bears are aggressive. Camping in their territory is a risk to you and your property. And yet, many people have these same bears living in their homes. Deaths from bear attacks are rare in the U.S. On average, 3 people per year are taken, which makes the odds of being killed very small. But does this risk increase with more exposure? While Jill devotes her life to caring for her pets, there also comes that heartbreaking time when you need to say goodbye.
We hold the record for the oldest living feline in the world, and that was Sammy. He lived to be 36 years old, a purebred Sumatran tiger. And he was a little butterball the day we put him to sleep, sadly, but his hips gave out. So when the quality of life is gone, then it's time for them. We cremate all of our big cats and our other animals. That way no one can dig them up 100 years from now and get them. I'm like King Tut with the grave, so. And this is Huggy. This is the one that I have to put to sleep, and it's really killing me. He's an old man. He's in multiple organ failure. But it's his time. He's 22 years old. It's heartbreaking, even though you know it's the right thing to do, you know. This time next week, he'll probably be passed on to Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, but I'm gonna miss him. I will absolutely miss him terribly. It's really hard. I have a lot of favorites that are buried here. I had lost my son in 1998 in a car accident, and he's buried here, and this is where Jim and I will be buried as well, because we want to be with those we love. I don't want to be in a human cemetery. It just doesn't feel right. I love the elderly, and I love the misfits. That's really where my heart is. And when a cat is old and senile, they forget they eat. So you feed them, and 10 minutes later, they're like, hello, I didn't eat today, and you got to give them some more, and that goes on all day.
Jill is a seasoned conservationist. Her motivation is about rescue.
It's so amazing. When they're rescued, they're completely different than one you've raised as a kid. They are so grateful. And the exotics are exactly the same way, because we loaded these animals up and they know they're going to a better place instantly.
This certainly is a better place with superior conditions than where these animals have come from. For Lena and her mate Thina, their lives have improved remarkably.
And we have a little crippled tiger here. This is one of my favorites. This is Lena. She came out of the same seizure in Indiana, and the SWAT team was there. They had all their long guns, and it was pretty scary. Here she comes. There she comes. And you can see her knees are really bad. Hi. The way she walks. Hi, little pumpkin. Hi, how are you? This cat and this other cat over here, they lived in circus roll crates. 6 foot by 4 foot, maybe 5 foot, their entire lives. They were in a dark barn, no light. We had to use bolt cutters to open all the locks because it had been ever since they were just prisoners in those little areas. When Lena came, she would sit and she could kind of paddle around like this on her feet, and then she'd do this, like stargazing. And now, as you can see, she can run and she can play. And our vet is amazed that she gets around as well as she did because it was not expected at all. But she probably will never live to see old age because of her handicap. But for the time that we have with her, you know, we'll do anything and everything for her. But this owner that owned this cat, it was horrific. He was an older circus mentality kind of person, and then once a year he'd roll the wagons out for the neighborhood kids to see and then roll them back into their dark barn. He would take a stick and just scoop the poop out and all over the floor in there. It was awful. It's probably one of the worst seizures that we've ever been on. It was absolutely horrific. This is the other one that came with Lena that lived in a circus roll crate. This is Stina. She was very young to begin with when we got her. She's about 18 months old. So she wasn't left in that condition. So like this one was for 6 years to become neurotic. But most of the neurotic behaviors is gone now, which is great. But she doesn't seem to have been scarred at all as far as, you know, being abused like that. She's really got a cute personality. She's very outgoing. She does have broken teeth from grabbing the bars where she lived. And she was really thin when she came. He's so sweet. But even though he's got hybrid in him, you can't trust them. They have a switch because they've got the wolf in them. But he's a very sweet boy. He loves his attention. He loves his cuddles. Yeah, you're a good boy. We lost his sister to cancer when she was 3. Hi, Milo. I think he's 8 or 9. And it's very interesting because we have a couple volunteers that he hates. And he will actually charge the fence to eat them. Yes, it's amazing. I mean, like, he knows you guys are all animal people. What a good boy.
Like many homes, there's often a need for renovations, and the Valley of the Kings Sanctuary is no different. Nestled on 10 acres of farmland, the sanctuary was established more than 30 years ago. And as more funding comes through, the better the conditions become for these majestic creatures.
If every sanctuary in America did not have big cats and was empty and they had a place to go, that would be my dream. I would tell you, if we could buy the property that surrounds us, I would give them, if we had the money, 2, 3, 4, 5 acre pens. That would be the ultimate. It'd be awesome. The interesting thing is when they come from an area that they have a small pen and you give them a larger pen, they're so happy and content with what they have because they've never had a large area. The one lion that was kept in a circus roll crate her entire life, we just moved her to the big area up in the compound, and she didn't know what to do. She would stay in the small area and she would kind of look around. She wouldn't play with her toys. She wouldn't roar or vocalize. And it took her about 2 weeks to figure out, okay, so I can go over here, and oh my gosh, I can go over there too, and oh, there's a toy, and now she's playing and acting like a normal animal. So it's kind of like you have to get inside of their heads to kind of rearrange their thinking that, okay, it's okay to have that much room.
Jill and her husband are very committed to ensuring their beautiful animals have a great second chance to a much improved life.
You come to the point you can't save them all. It's not humanly possible. But if everybody took care of their own backyard and did what they could, that the world would truly be a better place. So everyone who comes through our gates, we make a lifetime commitment to, and they're here forever through thick and thin and illness and whatever. And I know that the time that we need to let them go, that they had a good life for the time that they had with us.
Well, yeah, I get bitten every day. Well, probably not every day, but once a week. And that's because I breed pythons. I breed young snakes that are harmless. Pythons don't have any venom. Some snakes may be technically venomous, but not that bad. So I've had a few bites I don't count. If you get to the pointy end, I've had 4 intensive care visits. So 4 times the word's been a bit touch and go. Every time was something I did wrong, yes. And when you do something over and over, sometimes it's complacency sets in.
Just how close would you get to a snake? To feel the snake's body slithering against your skin. Even experienced snake handlers, like this one in Cyprus, who removed the snake from the neighbor's backyard, can run into a problem.
Yes?
Yes. She started from jump because she had small feet.
The adrenaline factor is huge, but the consequences can make for a very bad day. However, when you're performing for a crowd, it's all about the showmanship.
This one here is a tiger snake and potentially very, very lethal if it bit you. Because this one's captive bred and it's used to me and I've never given it any reason to bite me. Snakes aren't designed just to bite for no reason. If it did, it would be, yeah, a bad day. It's potentially one of the most lethal land snakes in the world. He won't just bite you. This is the misconception. He doesn't want to bite you to get away. So often you won't get a warning. You'll hear a rustle in the bush and that's him already getting away. 80% of our hospitalised bites, people trying to catch and kill the snake. It's simple. People think they're dangerous and because they've got to deal with this dangerous animal and they deal with it by getting the shovel, trying to kill it, and then they realise how quick and agile these animals are when it's too late.
Australian Gary Davies has had a fascination with snakes since he was 5 years old. He knew he wanted to be a snake man. Over the years, he gathered a collection of the most venomous, including the tiger snake, king brown, and death adder. Add to that a few different species of pythons and lizards, and you've got a rather uncommon assortment of pets. For Gary, this passion for reptiles has led to a career working with snakes and educating the public. But quite frankly, it seems Gary prefers snakes to humans.
Look, honestly, what a man and his snake do in the privacy of their own snake shed is a different story. But in public, I don't go handling snakes in order like this. It's just to show you that they are not, you know, red-hot killers that are out to get us. Naturally, I'm not his prey. Tiger snakes are far from violent or aggressive animals. In fact, if you're going to learn snakes, tiger snakes and king browns are one of the most quietest, easily chilled snakes of the venomous snakes there are.
If you're new to snakes, perhaps starting with a couple of Australia's most venomous isn't for the beginner. They may be laid back and chilled out, but you don't want to be surprising them.
You keep within boundaries. I'm not doing anything to cause this snake to actually bite me. And he is getting close to full grown now. But it's not about size. Venom, it doesn't come down to size with venom. You know, you need a mil of venom. It doesn't matter how big the snake is. So it's not like, oh, he's too big to handle. No, that one there it's going to give you, you know, a bad day as bad as anything on the planet can, as far as venom, you know. I don't recommend it as a pet. If you want to like snakes, there's a whole lot of less toxic snakes, you know, safer snakes to keep. But if tiger snakes are your thing and you've got to that stage, then great, you know, I'm all for it. But I just don't suggest it for someone thinking about a pet snake. No, don't think of a tiger snake. Don't think of a venomous snake. I think keeping a venomous snake It's something you evolve to and you get to rather than trying to aspire to.
If you're thinking a tiger snake might be off the pet list, after all, it is one of the top 3 most venomous land snakes in Australia, then you may be interested in the king brown. It comes in much lower on the danger scale, at around number 6.
This is a king brown. Particularly huge for a king brown.
Might not be able to hold up. But it is a venomous snake that's very, very active.
Yeah, he's going to be a lot more active. He wasn't captive bred. He was actually wild caught under licence. But he has got used to me and that I don't hurt him, so he's in the process of calming down very well. But it is a process thing where this one I won't give the same sort of luxuries as I would that tiger snake. It's just understanding your own animal again. He can turn around and bite, but he's slowly learning since he's been caught that, oh, well, this guy's not too bad.
If you're a snake in captivity, you don't get to choose your owner. But Gary is a role model for responsible pet ownership.
For one, he's a reptile feeder, so he'll feed on other snakes. He's pretty good at catching and killing, overpowering even death adders, other venomous snakes. So I'd never keep him together with another snake, especially if he's hungry.
Great tip for the uninitiated. It pays to do your research. Snake ownership is serious business. There's a lot to learn in order to stay safe.
The king brown is the largest member of the black snake family, so he's not actually a brown snake. But because he's often brown in colour, they've called him the king brown. The other name is mulga snake, which is probably a better name. If you got bitten by this, you'd need black snake antivenom, not brown snake. They're very widespread, so they're found right throughout the whole of Australia, except for the very southeast and the very southwest. Now, a big one of these can push 3 metres, and that's probably the Kimberley forms. The ones in the Kimberley are the biggest. You grab one of them by the tail in the wild, you know you've got a snake when he's 3 metres long. A snake that big and with the name King Brown, that's where he gets these reputation from him. Everything that happens, people talk about, oh, did you hear about the King Brown? And these are stories that have been exaggerated because it sounds such an aggressive animal, it sounds so big. Yes, it's a perception of deadliness. It can be dangerous, but again, I think we carry the legends a lot more than the actual reality deserves. If they're not natural predators, they're going to bite out of fear. Now, you can break down that fear. They're not scared of you so much. There's no reason for them just to bite randomly.
Fear is quite possibly the #1 reason why you would be bitten. If you see a snake sliding through the bush or accidentally step on one, there's a really good chance you're going to panic and perhaps end up in the hospital. Even with all of Gary's experience, he's admitted to a few close calls.
I've been handling venomous snakes for well over 25 years. Anytime you get bitten, it's because you've crossed a line, you've been complacent. And hopefully that brings you down to earth and you see your mistake, or else you're just going to make it again. There's always an adrenaline rush when, like you said, you know it can go wrong in a second. You've got to be dead if you don't get adrenaline out of that. You hold a tiger snake like this, I mean, you've got to be dead if you don't get some sort of adrenaline rush. But that's not the right reason to keep them. To keep them for the beauty of the animal. You're working with these animals, you've got to have the understanding there's certain lines you don't cross. You've got to respect that potential risk. There has to be a knowledge of it and an understanding that if I make a mistake here, this is going to end badly for me. There's a hot zone. So while you're in that hot zone, where you're in a hot zone, that's where the potential is. You stay out of that and you're quite, you know, he's not lurking, waiting for you. Well, not if you're a good keeper. If you lose them around the house and they're just lurking somewhere you don't know, but a good keeper with snakes, he's got an enclosure where he lives and, you know when it's you're in a dangerous position, and that's when you've got to be switched on.
Owning any pet that is considered a little unusual often comes with risks that can be fatal. But it can be an adventure for the seasoned, unusual pet lover.
You can potentially keep one as a pet, but you have to show the authorities, take the right steps before they deem that you're safe enough to keep one. I would never suggest anyone keeping king browns or tiger snakes unless they've kept snakes for a long time and they actually know quite a bit about venomous snakes. You can only really learn that by experience. But the adventure side is getting out there in the scrub and actually finding these animals, and that's my passion, finding king browns in the field, in the wild, and watching what they do. And that's where our learning comes from, you know. So I guess that's my passion, but everyone's different.
If you're convinced you're ready to proudly own a pet snake, then moving to a non-venomous variety is a great place to start. Although they can still be a bit of a handful. Meet Bob.
He's an older python. His name's Bob, but I've had him about 14 years from birth. He's been around people his whole life. He works with kids and in crowds, and often if I'm standing close to someone who's holding him, he will come over to me. And he doesn't love me. I have no doubt he doesn't love me and has affection for me, but I'm a familiar scent to him, just like if he had a hollow log in the wild that's a familiar place. It's a familiar scent.
Bob is likely to reach a maximum length of 4.5 to 5 meters. But olive pythons have been known to get up to 6.5 meters or more. That's a lot of snake to keep your eye on.
Me and Bob, often there's things that happen around the house that people would think strange. I'm making a sandwich with him around my neck. Seems strange to some people, I guess. It's quite normal around my house. I guess sometimes people think of pets as something that you can cuddle and grab hold of. Now, that to me, not necessarily true. You know, you don't have to pat an animal. You can still have a pet and just enjoy it for what it is. And I think that maybe that's a line that some people call some things a pet because they can cuddle it at night and give it a hug. Some animals don't necessarily want to be hugged. But does that make them not a pet? If you're looking after them, you keep an animal in captivity and you give it all its needs and you look after it and it's a healthy animal and you get enjoyment out of it, then to me that's a pet. You've got to have respect, and they can be dangerous, but there's so many things in this world that can be dangerous, you know? Some people get married, God, you know, that's danger there. You know, each to their own, really. Some people think that reptiles are easy, especially snakes, easy pets to keep, and I don't like that attitude, because you think you're going to get a pet because it's easy to keep, then that's probably the wrong reason to get them. They can be easy once you understand their needs, but sometimes their needs aren't as simple as people think. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you just keep them warm. Well, keeping them warm, you can kill them by overheating them. I do what I love. Since I was 5 years old, I loved snakes, so if I could turn my life into snakes, that's what I did. But again, it comes down to some people keep it just for their own ego, especially when it comes down to, well, predator pets or things that are potentially dangerous. Often the person's keeping it just to say, look at me, you know, and I think that's the wrong sort of person, and often they're the ones that make mistakes. And in this game, the problem becomes ours because someone keeps things for a wrong reason. If they get bitten by a tiger snake, they make the news. And there's knee-jerk reactions that come to the rest of the hobby. Everyone that keeps these animals has to get affected by the weakest few. So to me, I always believe that people, if they want to keep venomous snakes particularly, as long as they know what they're doing and they are doing it for the right reasons, not just to be tough or look at me, because that's just going to end wrong sooner or later.
People see these cats on Disney films, you know, oh, they all look all friendly and I want one of those. And what happens? They get one and oh dear, it attacks me. It's destroyed my house. Oh, I don't want it anymore. That's the pet side. But then a number of these private breeders are doing the job properly.
Dr. Terry Moore knows cats. In fact, he loves cats so much he has devoted his life to ensuring the survival of a wide number of species. But don't be fooled by the fact that Terry is in the enclosure with this Temix golden cat. These cats are quick and can attack. However, in the right hands, they can be mostly controlled.
And then there's the African golden cat, which is much more orange than this. Keeping cats in captivity, there's the pluses and the minuses. If they're doing it properly, and there are a lot of private breeders in this country that we work with, A lot of the private breeders work with zoos and are providing livestock for show in zoos so that people can come along and just understand why we need to protect them. But then you've got to differentiate between the people who look after the animals properly and the ones who just want them for status. You know, I've got this cat. Having one as a pet, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work, because very few of these cats are friendly enough to be classed as a pet.
These cats are all in good hands at the Cat Survival Trust. While the trust is focused on long-term conservation of cats in the wild, this 12-acre property at Hertfordshire, England, is a haven for unwanted and surplus wild cats from zoos and other collections where cats have proven to be too much of a handful.
When I was studying at London University back in the 60s, I was actually working part of the time for my uncle's firm in aviation insurance to pay my way. And one day I went into Harrods, and there was a South American margay for sale for £300, and I thought about this. I thought, that's a nice cat, and for the wrong reason, to have it as a pet. And I went away and got the money together, and 3 weeks later went back to buy it, but unfortunately Lady Fisher of Kilwardstone Wildlife Park beat me to it. But between 66, which is when I saw this cat, and 75, I accumulated so many books about wild cats and realised that, you know, there were 37 species of cat, not just your lions and tigers, but, you know, such amazing cats as pampas cat and Andean mountain cat and sand cat and eremite cat and so on, which I'd never heard of. I mean, they weren't in the school curriculum. So I really got into this and felt, well, something ought to be done. And realised very quickly, after a few years, that sadly there wasn't a rescue operation in England to take surplus and unwanted cats. So a group of us got together, and in 75 we formed the charity, basically to look after unwanted and confiscated cats from illegal collections. He's getting a bit heavy to hold, and you've got to be careful when you're holding him. It's uncomfortable for him. The Eurasian lynx is an interesting one. The Scandinavian, there are about 2,000 or 3,000 left. The Central European are 200 or 300, and the Italian down to about 40. This is a Central European, so with 200 or 300 left is not good. He's only really friendly with 4 of us. We used to allow people in with him, but not anymore. He picks up on the slightest element of fear and get quite aggressive.
Working with these animals requires a lot of knowledge on what makes them tick.
We wanted to study cats in the wild. We wanted to find some ways of perhaps preserving cats in the wild, keeping them safe in the wild. We wanted to provide an educational service. The first 30 years were pretty difficult, although in '92 we did manage to buy 10,000 acres of virgin forest in northeast Argentina with 5 species of cat living free in their own environment. And in future we want to buy more natural habitat, because keeping animals in their own environment is by far the most economic, most ethical way. And of course, to save cats, you've got to have that entire ecosystem intact. Any part of that food chain is out and the cats are going to die.
There is no doubt the work that Terry and his team of volunteers do is vital to the survival of many cat species. The jaguar is endangered, and the work at the Cat Survival Trust is about helping animals like Athena, affectionately known as Jags. But we all know looks can be deceiving.
Jaguars are only found in South and Central America. They're quite different from the leopards. They're much bigger, much chunkier, and much more dangerous. They'll take crocodiles out of the rivers and just crunch them. Give her a whole deer, and there is nothing left. I mean, she will eat the skull, the hooves, absolutely everything. I go in with all the cats here with the exception of the jaguar and the amio leopards, because She was already an adult when she came. I didn't have the chance to build a relationship with her, and she wouldn't know her own strength. She'd want to play hard.
The unpredictability of a pet in captivity is never something to be ignored.
Out of all the cats we keep here, she's probably the most dangerous. Cats are potentially dangerous and not ideal as pets in any way.
Big cats have an enormous appeal as a pet, particularly when they're young. They are playful and often have many of the enduring characteristics of a domestic cat. However, when you think what a domestic cat can do to a small mouse, you'd have to be mindful that the time may come where you could end up being the big cat's human mouse to torment and tease until your last breath is taken. Perhaps these cats are far more spectacular in the wild than in your backyard. But for these cats to roam free, a lot of work needs to be done.
Keeping cats in captivity is a sort of stopgap. Let's face it, most of the wild places where you find cats are being wiped out. There's just too many humans. We need oil, we need minerals, we need metals, we're destroying the habitat. And so every species is seeing falling numbers every year. The way it's going, we could lose every single species, not only of cats, but everything else.
Research and breeding programs are vital to save these animals.
Zoos have played a major part in education, allowing people to understand why animals are important. There are some very good zoos who do a lot of conservation work. You know, they breed certain species in captivity and then release them back into the wild. For the good zoos that have lots of information, lots of placards and posters all about why we have to save animals, that's great. But I think what we have to do is look really seriously at the zoos that are underfunded, that aren't looking after the animals properly, and they should be closed. So the question is, in the future, so many of these cats that have many subspecies, how relevant is it to say, right, let's save all of the different subspecies? Pumas, they're originally, they're thought to be 29 subspecies. So when you've got a species like the puma, what you find is that those that are living near the equator are much smaller. Those living away from the equator are much bigger and much chunkier, and their fur is much thicker. Sadly, because jaguar need much stronger enclosures, this is a much thicker wire than you would keep any of the other cats that we have in. Zoos can't generally afford to build a huge enclosure like this with this extra cost added to the wire. She's now unfortunately too old to breed, and because the jaguar stud book have said, look, if we breed a load, where are we going to put them? Because zoos can't afford to build this sort of enclosure anymore. So there is a restriction on breeding. Generally speaking, stud books are there to make sure that we don't get surpluses in official collections. And that's very sensible with the jaguar, because there's a fair number left in the wild, although as they destroy more and more forest, we're losing habitat at such an amazing rate, and ultimately some of the subspecies could disappear.
Whether you're looking at these cats thinking, I want one as a lovable, purring pet, or if you feel you should get on board to help save many species of big cats, it's clear the survival of these incredible animals is up to the human race. We've hunted to the point of extinction. We've destroyed habitats, but we can still make a difference.
My number 2 is more than capable of taking over. We have a number of volunteers who potentially could take over in future times. And we're very lucky. We've had a lot of volunteers in the past who are emailing me quite frequently. Are we in a position to have them back? They don't need much money. They just need enough for food and clothing and bits and pieces. we're at a situation now where we know a number of our supporters have left quite substantial sums to the charity, not only to keep it going, but also to buy more natural habitat in countries around the world. So I feel pretty happy about the current situation with the Trust. We don't have any debt here. The property is effectively owned by the charity now. I don't have any fears in the future. Too many animal collections don't think ahead. And that is one problem with people who keep exotic cats as pets. What is going to happen when they die? What is going to happen when they can't look after them anymore? But with the huge number of people who keep private collections of all sorts of animals, they really need to think this through, because the only option is to put them down. And then what was the point of having them in the first place? People who keep these animals, a lot of them will have friends and relatives come and see the cats, will learn more about why the cat is endangered, and that will all help towards people in the future providing funding for new projects, particularly in the wild. And certainly we found by having cats here that when we bought our 10,000 acres of forest in Argentina, people were very happy to support it because they saw the cat and they saw why we wanted to save the cat in its own habitat.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years, and cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
There are 48 animals that we had to put down. Those animals included 1 wolf, 6 black bears, 2 grizzly bears, 9 male lions, 8 lionesses, 1 baboon, 3 mountain lions, and 18 tigers.
I remember it all happening on a Wednesday evening at about 10 till 7 is when I received the first phone call. We became international news by the next morning.
It was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Zanesville is a sleepy town in Muskingum County, Ohio, with a population of just over 25,000 people. Until 2011, Zanesville was best known for its Y Bridge and many beautiful parks. It's one of the last places in the world you would expect to find an exotic pet owner with so many animals. But on one fateful day, the worst example of exotic pet ownership brought Zanesville to the attention of the world.
Zanesville's a very small, agricultural, very family-oriented community. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows what everybody's doing. It's a small town.
One of these small town residents was lifelong inhabitant Terry Thompson, a decorated Vietnam War veteran whose main role had been as a machine gunner on a Huey helicopter. His wife, Marion, was an avid horse rider and a local school teacher. Many locals knew the Thompsons kept exotic animals, but Terry was better known as the man who flew a light plane under the Y Bridge. A notorious hoarder whose property was scattered with old cars and a dangerous mix of guns and wild exotic animals. Terry had drawn attention to himself many times over the years with his unusual behavior. Local police sergeant Todd Knavel has vivid recollections of Terry Thompson.
We had dealt with him off and on. He had just been released from prison just a few days before this incident on a firearms charge. We had dealt with him in the past also about the animals, just checking on their welfare and the safety of the public as far as the containment systems that he provided them and such. He had several animals then, 70-some, I believe. He had tigers, he had lions, he had black bears, he had grizzly bears. He had different apes. One time, he had camels, numerous horses. There was just animals everywhere. In the garage, there was a couple of tiger cages. There was a bedroom where a mountain lion, I think, lived. There was monkeys in the basement in a cage. Yeah, Terry was different. Terry always kind of pushed the envelope, but Terry was Terry. He was never really disrespectful to me or anything. I was always concerned that either Terry or Marion would be attacked by the animals. I realized they had a good rapport with the animals, but they're still wild animals, and something would trigger them. I figured maybe someday we would go up there and find one of them severely injured or killed.
The sergeant's fear was realized on the evening of October 18, 2011. Terry's notoriety was about to extend beyond the small community of Zanesville. As the day drew to a close, it is believed that he cut open the cages of more than 50 of his wild animals, setting them free before taking his own life. Senator Troy Balderson was born and bred in Zanesville and had been a member of the Ohio House of Representatives since 2009. This incident was a trigger for him to amend the legislation surrounding exotic pet ownership in Ohio.
About a mile down the road that evening, there was a tournament soccer game going on. There could have been a lot of tragedy, and there wasn't. For the most part, no one was injured. That was one of the biggest accomplishments that I feel that came out of the situation.
The next thing I saw was this black figure. It turned out it was a bear.
Sam Kopchak is a retired school teacher and lived next door to Terry. That evening, he was out in his own yard attending his own horse, Red, when he saw Terry's horses acting strangely.
I saw the horses that were over there. There's probably about 60 horses I estimate that they had. And they were going around a circle. And I said, well, they're not supposed to do that. Something's going on, you know.
Then Sam saw something even more out of the ordinary.
I actually got Red up there by the corner. We walked down through here, and I just felt like something was looking at me, and I kind of turned to the left, and big male African lion, he came down. This is about the spot he was sitting. He just sat down right there, and just kind of, you know, like that. And I just kept on going, and I never looked back till I got down to the white fence with my barn. And then after I was down by my barn, he was pacing back and forth on the fence. As you can see, this is like a 7-strand ball, not a barbed wire, just a smooth wire. And if he wanted to leap over that, he was big enough that he could have leaped over that fence.
What Sam soon realized was that the lion was just the beginning of what was about to unfold.
So I actually saw like 6 animals. The original bear, and then the lion, the male lion, and the female lion, and another bear, and the wolf went by, and the tigers.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah, I think I just seen one. It looked like a jaguar or a wolf or something.
I received a call that some of the animals were out. We weren't sure to the extent of the situation, but I was requested to come to the scene. When we arrived, we were advised by one of the patrol sergeants that he had been up in the compound area looking for Terry or Marion and had seen a body laying out in a field. That was our first priority, determine who it was and if they were injured or deceased. We were first approached by, I believe it was 2 tigers come out of a barn towards us, and As they rushed the truck, we were forced to dispatch them. Then we arrived in the area of where the body was, and it was quite apparent whoever it was deceased. There was a white tiger chewing on him. About that time, we were advised that there was 2 cats ready to exit the compound area on the south side of the property. So we had to go over there and dispatch those animals. I didn't know how many were out, but once we got up there, I had made contact with the sheriff that appeared that everything had been turned loose. And I mean, there was bears, there was tigers, there's lions running everywhere. It was a huge concern because it was later in the evening. You know, if it got dark, the only thing securing that property is just a regular barbed wire fence like you would have for cattle or whatever. You know, these animals would have easily cleared that, and in a short time they'd have been in populated areas and injuring, you know, humans. There was some that had escaped the perimeter, but we had set up officers along the perimeter to contain that. I discussed with the sheriff what our situation was. There was no other option except to dispatch the animals. We started engaging the animals at different distances. Some were shot 30 to 50, 70 yards away. But then it came to where we had to go to the barn areas and that because they were in there. And yeah, we had one lioness come at us. We ended up having to shoot her, and she was stopped probably 3 feet from us when she finally went down. Most of us had AR-15s shooting the .223 round. I was concerned that maybe there wasn't enough power, but after we engaged a few animals and saw that, you know, the rifle was doing its job, then I felt a little better that, you know, we could be safe. It was a coordinated effort to try to keep everything safe and contained.
Sam became an unwitting bystander to a grisly scene.
I saw the deputies pull in, and my first thing was, well, there's going to take more than 2 deputies to take care of this, because if all those animals are out. And I saw a truck, and there was several, probably 4 deputies on the back with their guns, and they drove back there. And within a few minutes, I could hear shooting. It just sounded like a big fireworks display. It just kept on. It seemed like it went on forever. I saw them going across the field, just like hunters, you know, with a gap between them with their guns. 49 animals they killed, and 1 missing, and 6 that were in the house. So it's 56 total animals that were there.
It was quickly determined that it would have been impossible to control all these wild animals using tranquilizers. And the decision to use live ammunition undoubtedly saved human lives.
To the best of my knowledge, there was 1 tiger left, and the veterinarian there, I think her name was Wolf, she went over and got a perfect shot with a tranquilizer, hitting perfectly where she wanted to. I mean, she, I guess, made the determination how much to give him, you know, how big he was. And he was in the weeds and so forth, and he come immediately charging out of there, and if the deputies weren't there, he'd have probably got her. They had to shoot it.
When it comes down to a situation like that, I realize you know, the animals have rights, but humans have more. And you couldn't justify risking human life for the animals. They had to be somewhat scared. They were out of their containment systems, running loose. You just didn't know how they were going to react. You could kind of surmise that he had let them go. But it wasn't until, you know, the investigation was completed later, we knew that's what had happened. You know, even if you'd found them in some of their containment systems, he cut the fences so that you couldn't recontain them. I'm glad it turned out that no one got hurt. To have that many animals loose, we were just very lucky that we caught it when we did. You're not ready for something like that. We had to deal with what we had to do, and that's why I think they've come out with legislation on this kind of practice. It's not feasible. Safety for the public or for the animals.
Immediately following the incident, Ohio ultimately banned the ownership of exotic animals and their transportation across state lines.
We don't want to see these animals lose their lives over something like this. They are wild. I mean, these animals are not domesticated. They are wild animals. That's what I kept trying to focus on. That's what I did focus on when we did this legislation. They're wild. We knew something needed to be done. The administration knew that something needed to be done, and we had to stand up and do the right thing for the state of Ohio. And that's what, I had to make that decision also. Challenging as I knew it was going to be. I knew there was going to be a lot of negative feedback from taking on a piece of legislation like this. Before I started doing this legislation, I did travel the state of Ohio and going to sanctuaries that, that's the challenging part. There were people that had sanctuaries that were doing it respectfully. You wanted to look at both sides of it, but you also had to take the responsibility to make the right judgment, to set the mind of we weren't going to do this. We weren't going to allow you to have wild animals without certain restrictions that you had to abide by. We had a facility at the Department of Ag that was built out there that took in the people that could not find places for their wild animals. They could take them to the Department of Ag. We stored them there until we could find some place to go. There are good places out there with facilities that are capable of handling these animals, and it's some place for these owners that can take their animals that they can still have a relationship with. They can still go visit. They can still go feed. I think that was important to a lot of them.
It's still there and always will be there, in your mind about it. I'm just so thankful that nobody got hurt, and it's terrible that he had to die. It's a very sad thing. All those animals are buried back there along the road where they buried them. They dug a big, put them all in there. And see, they laid them all. So that was the bad picture on the internet that made people irate, because all those animals, when you saw that scene, and the sheriff was very upset. They don't know who took those pictures, and they put them out. But but they had to put them, lay them out so they would know they had them all. And the caretaker was the one, like I said, that was counting the heads and telling them, well, yeah, we do have them all, or whatever with it. But that made it a terrible scene too, because you see all of them lying there, like that. So it wasn't too nice to see. But they're beautiful animals, and you hate to see them get killed. But if you got a choice between the animals and people, you got to save the people, and that's what they did.
Exotic pets take all shapes and forms, and often the owners have an incredible and very special bond with their animals. And this is undeniably the case with Lisa.
Oh, baby Maggie. You see this little itty-bitty baby. It's cute as can be. But that little itty-bitty baby is gonna tear you apart.
At no point should you ever feel complacent with a monkey you've never met before. This monkey was only after the owner's camera, but it's an intense reminder this is a wild animal.
If you buy a monkey, be prepared that you are gonna get attacked.
Lisa and Mugwai have been friends for 24 years, a commitment that's incredibly rewarding, but also very demanding. Unless you're an educated monkey owner, you're in for a disaster.
Every single monkey bites, and it's gonna bite you, no matter what you do. So, a monkey has to be tamed, and then it can be trained. So it's a process that you have to go through. And it takes a lot of taming to become a good monkey.
When you have a good monkey, it's easy to make new friends. But if your monkey is a little wild, it may bite strangers. Many vets will only examine a monkey when it's sedated to avoid any unwelcome wounds.
When these animals hit 6 years old and start going through puberty, they can become wild, vicious, dangerous animals. The training that they've often learned, the domestication they've learned at that early age, that pretty much goes out the window, and you're dealing with literally a whole different animal.
Monkeys frequent the tourist circuit in Thailand, and they may seem super cute, but you always need to keep your guard up and pay attention to what may become aggressive behavior. Don't be deceived by their so-called friendly antics. These monkeys are wild.
A lot of these animals carry diseases that are communicable to people. They're called zoonotic diseases. And a zoonotic disease is any disease that can be transferred from pet or animal to person. And some of the diseases are quite serious. Non-human primates carry herpes and monkeypox and Ebola. So again, if you don't know what you're doing, sanitation, care, so forth, then that's something that you can take on, or a family member or a friend who's visiting, because the disease is now spread around your home. You have to step back and look at all that's involved, do your research and education, depending on the pet and what's involved. The take-home here is never should it be taken lightly, owning an exotic pet, regardless of the size or the species.
We still have monkeys in the United States that are carrying disease. Probably only a third out of the 40,000 monkeys out there and growing each and every day, they are not vaccinated. We've been vaccinating these monkeys for years and years and years. And we do a serology test to screen everything imaginable that they could possibly have.
This isn't a pet for someone keen on owning a low-maintenance animal. Monkeys can be a handful.
She's very calm though. She'll sit and she'll watch a movie with you, have some popcorn. She doesn't get into a lot of things. She used to when she was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So over the age of 12 to 13, then they really start to be a part of your life.
Capuchin monkeys reach maturity around 5 years, at which point their personality can become even more demanding and potentially aggressive. If you're the prime carer, you really need a lot of training to make sure the relationship stays on track.
She is 8 pounds. So that 8 pounds coming at you full force, that's a lot of monkey there. Really, seriously, it's a lot of monkey. She's strong.
A monkey on the attack is a situation to be avoided at all costs. However, for Lisa, this inherent wild animal instinct saved her life.
They're very smart, yes. I was attacked. I came home from work and I was attacked in my garage, and my monkey saved my life. A man had grabbed me from behind. Inside my house, on the 2nd floor, they have their 2 monkey rooms. And if it wasn't for all 4 of them that came downstairs and attacked him, I probably wouldn't be alive today. All I gotta do is give her one sign, and it says she becomes the wild animal that everyone sees. I love her to pieces. We are 2 people that are inseparable.
Capuchins are most notably renowned as pets of organ grinders, and were in fact introduced as exotic pets from their home territories of Central and Northern South America. These mischievous rascals certainly kept the audience entertained. Plus, they had the ability to carry a cup around to collect money. From this, their popularity grew for those wanting an unusual pet.
There's pros and cons where exotic pets are concerned, because our biggest problem is the caretakers and owners that own them don't have the education that they need.
Lisa has trained around 3,000 to 4,000 monkeys, often referred to as the monkey whisperer. Lisa is the go-to person if your monkey is misbehaving.
When I take her to train other monkeys, she helps. You know, it's great for the other monkeys to see that they can actually be loved, that they can be touched without being hurt. Or, you know, the mistakes that these owners make by using gloves and using weapons and the shock collars and things like that. I mean, it's still going on today.
Owning a monkey is a commitment for up to 30 years or more. While capuchins are the most intelligent of the New World monkeys, in the human world, they are like toddlers.
But that's how naive these people are. They think that they're humans and they can treat them as humans, but they're wild animals. They have to have a habitat, not a little tiny bird cage, a habitat. So they can be free. They can jump, they can climb, they have things to do all the time. Muggy's surrounded by so many. You know, they need their own kind to be able to communicate, to socialize, to groom each other. That is a healthy animal in captivity. I have a huge facility. A lot of people have come to my door and dropped their monkeys off. A lot of them came that way, and all the monkeys that are there have either been injured, they've been rescued, or they've been dropped off. You have to be a very experienced person to have a primate. It's a huge responsibility. I do believe that any of the larger monkeys should not be kept as, quote, pets. But I do not call them pets, I call them companions.
These devoted companions may need a lot of ongoing training, but just like humans, they are always capable of a little monkey business.
I studied animals. I studied monkeys, their data, the brain waves, their anatomy. And because they're so human, you open her up, she's just like me. You know, so it's so beautiful, a creature that can do anything that we can do. I mean, she started my van, and her and Madeline ran it into my house in the garage. So this is how smart they really are. You know, you cannot turn your back.
Mugwai may be a troublemaker at times, but she also knows when to be well-behaved, especially when there's the opportunity to go toy shopping for her birthday. But first, a quick sketch as a thank you gift. After all, Muggy is a very polite little monkey and doesn't want to turn up to any event empty-handed.
Her name is Mugwai.
Mugwai. Hi, Mugwai.
Happy birthday.
She'll be 24.
Oh, 24, that's amazing.
What?
This for you. She painted it.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is awesome.
Outstanding.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
That is really cool.
She painted it.
Ron may not have a monkey in his store every day, but he's certainly keen to help Muggy find the best present she's ever had.
Yeah, we're good.
Let's go shopping.
You like that one?
No interest in that one.
No? Okay.
When it comes to shopping, Muggy is a girl who knows what she wants and certainly loves all the attention.
Hey!
You want to check it out?
Come here. Come here.
Oh,
Aw, look at the little princess in her chair. Here you are. Look how cute. You got a chair.
You ready? Come on.
Let's go.
All right. We have something like this.
Try as she might, Muggy's not listening to Ron's sales pitch for these toys.
Up. Let's go.
Up, up. All right. Right here, it's like a little Jeep Wrangler. What do you think, sweetie?
Oh my goodness.
Looks like Ron has finally ticked all the boxes.
Back up. Ding, 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 ding. Ready? Let's go. One, two, three.
Are you a thrill seeker?
Thrill Seeker Yellow doesn't seem to hold as much appeal. However, the scooter looks like fun.
Okay, hang on.
Got a good grip of us?
Ready? You got a steer.
After all that adventure, it's time for a quick pit stop.
Nerds are your favorite?
Oh.
What do you think of those, baby?
Her ultimate favorite candy.
Oh, perfect.
Oh yeah.
The texture and the
Yeah.
creation and everything. I got a few more for you, Bubba.
There's a lot of controversy about owning a monkey. Not all monkeys have a great reputation, and many certainly aren't as well behaved as Mugwai. But it seems the key is all about good parenting.
All right, sweetie, your total is $64.94. You see it right there? Yeah, that's gonna be for your new car, your new Jeep. What do you think about that? You gonna be a journey girl? You can go on journeys with Mama? All right. She's like, yeah. Yum yums?
It comes down to how well they are taken care of, and that is the big picture. I get judged every single day. But what it comes down to, when they lose control of that monkey, who do they call? You can call me names, you can say whatever you want to say, but at the end, you're going to be begging for my help, you know? And am I going to turn that person away because they were crappy to me? No, I'm going to help them because it does not matter. I don't care about them. I care about those animals. That's what really matters to me.
The Greater Wynnewood Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma hosts some of the country's most interesting big cats and is home to star personality Joe Exotic.
Originally, I was born in Kansas, grew up in Wyoming, moved to Texas, was there 16 years, and ended up here when my brother got killed in 1997. We built this facility as a memorial to him because his dream was to go to Africa. I've been doing this 32 years now. Started actually almost 16 years before I moved here. And that's what me and my brother had, was an exotic pet store. And that was where I got my first lion, 16 years before we started this. I have built myself my own prison, because you can't leave here. I went to Walmart 3 years ago, came back and one of my staff members lost an arm.
What's your emergency? Hey, this is Bobby at the GW Zoo. I need a helicopter. I've got an employee that was attacked by a tiger, and he's hurt bad. Is it care flight, I guess? We have air back here. Okay. I will head that way, okay? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
That's something that I never, ever want to see again. So I've never left here since.
It's a potentially fatal attraction, but Joe's captivation with predatory animals has persisted.
Animals has always been a fascination to me. I picked up sick animals when I was little and pretended I was a vet and nursed them back to health, so it's just kind of something I've been born with. The showman side. You know, it's just because I say what most people are thinking, and they're too scared to say it, and I have fun. Anything I do, you can give me a bowl of Cheerios and a glass of milk, and I can motorboat around that bowl all day long. Entertaining, I love to entertain.
'Cause I saw Tiger.
Joe's love of entertaining has led him to pursue many careers in the spotlight, which have seen him adopt the stage name of Joe Exotic. Most recently, he's combined his passion for exotic animals with his successful country music career.
Singing is kind of an escape from reality to me, and I can write songs about how I feel, the way people act, misery, happiness, and that's just something that I use for an escape.
I'm pumping iron.
Sure, he's a little eccentric, but he does have ambition. In 2016, he ran for president against Donald Trump.
I laid in bed one day during the presidential election, and, common people like you and I never get heard. That's a fact. You can vote all day long. You can send a letter. You'll never get a response, and if you do, it's a form letter. So I laid in bed one night, and I was like, how in the hell do I ever have a voice? Woke up the next morning, filled out my federal papers, signed up to run for president, and, I learned more in 11 months of running for president of the United States than I did in 12 years of high school. So we gave him a run for the money. People are like, you lost. I didn't lose anything. 100 million people know who I am. I got my voice out there. I got my opinions out there. I think we won a lot. Give your money away.
Joe's first love, however, has and always will be his animals.
The first time I rescued a tiger, and I still have her. She's 27 years old. That was my first real connection, and when you help something, there's a much different connection there than if you buy something and try and make it a pet. Taking unwanted abused animals, I have a whole lot more sense of being able to work with them. I'm like their savior, and they know that. We are here to educate the world, entertain people, and take care of animals. I don't like the word sanctuary. We're a zoo. We're open to the public. We buy, sell, breed, take in unwanted animals. You know, there's everything here. We have 450 plus animals. We have everything from Michael Jackson's alligators to Steve Martin's chimpanzees to just John Doe's tiger out of his backyard. We have a diverse family of animals of all kinds and people of all kinds. People ask me every day, well, you know, how do you train these tigers? I don't train my tigers. I walk among my tigers. And if they want to be petted, we pet. If they want to be loved on, we love. If they're laying over in the shade or the sun, and they have their ears back and they just want to be left alone, they're left alone.
The American Veterinary Medical Foundation states that once in captivity, no wild or exotic animal species should be re-released into the environment. For many of Joe's animals, his zoo is their final home, and he believes this is the safest place for them.
The only safe place for an animal in the United States is in a cage, in a zoo, or somebody's yard that can properly care for them. Unfortunately, society in today's world won't allow even a rehabilitated animal to be turned back loose in the wild. We just had a bear in Oklahoma a couple months ago, a wild bear, come up on a lady's porch in town. I said, what do? They kill it. You know, they hunt it down and kill it because it come into town. And this is the most important thing that I hope anybody gets out of anything that I'm saying is animals in the wild have no rights, none whatsoever. We trash our oceans. We build cities in our wetlands and our mountains. We took away their habitat. But if you properly care for and you don't take away from the wild, I believe any animal that's bred in captivity, you have a right to own it as long as you take care of it.
While animals like the black bear are native to the States, other animals such as lions and tigers have been imported, making their care and welfare once they arrive a hot topic. The placing of exotic animals in wildlife sanctuaries and the motivation behind doing so is a highly contentious issue.
The federal government of the United States, and this is what we're working on right now, has tigers and lions on our Federal Endangered Species Act. Okay, our Endangered Species Act was designed in 1972 to protect native species of our lands. Tigers, lions, kinkajous, orangutans have no business on our endangered species list. Okay, but put them on our endangered species list, what that has done is, you know, private citizens are not allowed to possess, own, breed, interstate commerce, which means sell across state lines, anything like that. 2 months ago, you saw online that there's too many tigers in America. A month later, we put them on the Federal Endangered Species list. In the meantime, they ship a circus tiger in from Peru to America and 13 lions from another country. Somebody's got to make up their damn mind. Have we got too many in America? Do they belong on the endangered species list in America? And why are we shipping them in? Because it makes good rescue stories. We rescued a tiger from Peru, and we need to raise $33,000 to care for this damn thing. And they euthanized it 6 months later because the money train ran out.
As yet, there's no central database or requirements for exotic animal owners to record and report on the disposal of animal bodies. The recommendation is for the bodies to be cremated to ensure animal parts don't find their way onto the black market. Between 2000 and 2004, more than $100 million was made from the sale of wild animal imports. making it a lucrative business. Ever one to speak his mind, Joe considers it's the money rather than the care and protection of animals that drives many sanctuary owners in the U.S. It is a controversial opinion, and whether he is right or not is yet to be determined.
There's 2,800 registered tigers in America. There's less than 3,000 in the wild. Every sanctuary in this country is the same one. It has nothing to do with helping animals. All you have to do is take the board of directors' names and pull up their tax records of what property they own. And I'll guarantee you every one of them lives in over an $800,000 house. This ain't about animals. This is about money. Understand this. If you raise money for animals at a particular nonprofit facility, it better be spent for them animals. See, here in America, you have to be licensed by the United States Department of Agriculture and be inspected to make sure that you're taking care of everything right and following protocols and vet care and all that stuff. Only if you're open to the public. Now, if you're a sanctuary that doesn't exhibit and you're closed to the public, God only knows what's going on behind them walls. Okay, and see, that's another problem with most of these sanctuaries and these organizations is they want animals in sanctuaries with no contact. How would you like to be thrown in jail and never touched or never loved on?
As much as Joe loves his animals, they remain at heart wild and unpredictable creatures. Some of Joe's most dangerous residents are his bears, and he knows all too well the potential risk of keeping these unpredictable animals in close proximity to humans.
I've not had good encounters with bears. We actually have 4 grizzlies here and 3 black bears. They're just as personable as any other animal. Ozzy, who is our largest grizzly bear, will sit up and give you a high five and French kiss you and everything else. Ozzy came from Kansas, and back in the early 2000s when Kaylee Hildebrand was killed by a tiger getting her senior picture taken, Kansas panicked and passed some laws that made it illegal for private owners to have animals, and that's where Ozzy arrived to us from. Was a private owner who just had some exotic animals, and this bear loved that guy. And when he arrived here, he was probably 6 feet tall, standing up on his back 2 feet, and this guy walked him around the park just like it was a dog. He is 100% lovable as long as that fence is there. That is as much his security blanket as it is for our safety. I've been in with him. He's 100% different bear. He weighs about 1,400 pounds. You know, during the summertime, they eat less, they lose a little bit of weight. During the wintertime, they eat more and they put it on. For a Syrian grizzly, he's pretty large. Bears are not as predictable as a lot of animals are, in my opinion. Bears is something that I've really never specialized in working with because they're just so moody. I had a black bear at one time that we raised called Little Bear, and she grew up in the gift shop years ago. And she got out of her enclosure one day and went back to the gift shop and decided to wreak havoc in the gift shop because she was playing. You know, everything on the shelves had to come off the shelves. And I put a harness on her and went to walk her out. And bears are much different than tigers. When they lay their ears down and they do that, you're gonna get bit.
Bears may be different to tigers, but that doesn't mean tigers pose any less of a threat to Joe and his team.
There's days they don't feel good. There's days they woke up in a bad mood. Like I said, I've built myself my own prison. If people think that you do this because you're getting rich, they really need to come work here. You can't leave. I wouldn't change it for the world. I have a goal in my life, and that is to be somebody and accomplish something. And that's the way I was raised, and that's what I'm gonna do. I saw my brother killed at the age of 32 years old. I buried my first husband here at the age of 32 years old, and I'm gonna leave this world leaving my mark. I've dealt with so much death in my life, and life's too short to be a tied at. So my personality is, I laugh all the time.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
They have a very strong compressive bite. They have the capacity to lacerate your skin and bite parts of you off.
Wolves are natural predators, and working with them is not for the faint-hearted. Chris Edrington from Steve Martin's Working Wildlife trains wolves for film and television.
We supply animals for the entertainment industry. I used to call it the film industry, but that's sort of antiquated. It's work in front of a camera where someone is paying us to film an animal that's part of content that somebody else is selling. I would say 90% of the work that I personally do is in front of a camera that way. Mark, stay. Stay. Good boy. Depending on the economy, sometimes 10% of the work or more will be event related. America's funny that people have disposable income, and somebody occasionally wants a lion at their party, or a wolf, or a baby animal of some kind. These are gray or timber wolves, and name is interchangeable. They come in different colors, dark like these two, or gray like the other one who's wandering around. We have one that's sort of a lighter color too. These particular guys, their bloodline is from North America.
Chris's most famous animal pupils starred in the iconic movie Dances with Wolves. The movie's wolf character, Two Socks, was actually played by two different wolves, Buck and Teddy, who looked so similar only their trainers could tell them apart.
Those wolves lived here. The owner actually had to double the actor Kevin Costner for a couple scenes where they interacted. This group of wolves here, we've done True Blood, Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf. We did 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, and then a bunch of other movies.
Chris has worked with a variety of dangerous animals, and while he makes them seem quite safe and friendly, wolves remain wild predators.
I've enjoyed everything I work with. I work a little bit with our tiger. It's a solitary animal and I like it, but I like these guys a lot. They give you love. All animals show some emotion, but wolves show love more than any other animal. You'd have to be devoid of a consciousness not to see that and see how they show that to you. It's quite wonderful. Hello, my love. Come on. Come here.
Training wolves is about making the animals familiar with the human world rather than teaching them clever tricks.
Quite frankly, as an animal trainer, I find I don't spend so much time training an animal, but habituating it to the odd things that occur in society. And on a movie set, we have booms and flags and all sorts of things that aren't natural, so we have to get our animals used to that. We have to get them used to loading in a truck or a trailer or whatever cage if we have to go on an airplane. And we try to make that so it's normal and not stressful.
Going into a pen with wolves is dangerous, and no matter how close an owner is to their animals, there will always be a risk.
The two black guys here are a part of an older group. When we got them, we had a lot of film projects at the time, and they worked a lot, and we just happened to build a really good rapport. The other wolf, he's just 2, and so he hasn't worked quite as much, and I don't have as good a rapport with him as these guys. I can still work with him. If a filmmaker wants to shoot with him, we'll go do whatever we have to. But these guys have known me better, and I've done more with them, and we've traveled more places. And they're older, too, so they know that I'm the source of fun more. He's a young punk. In a couple more years, he might be standing over here because he knows that the rubs are good, and maybe we'll go for a walk out into the universe.
Dog trainer and canine behavioral specialist Michael Chill is known for his expertise with wolves and wolf behavior.
Dogs absolutely evolved from wolves, and they share 99.9% of the same genetic makeup. They can interbreed and make fertile offspring, so that's really, from a species perspective, that proves a close relation. Our adult dogs have the similar behavior to a 5-month-old wolf. Our adult dogs are social with strange dogs, typically, are still eager to learn, have a prey drive, but not a serious enough one to really do that much hunting and killing. Our wolves evolve beyond that. Once they become adults, they will accept their own family members, but they're highly aggressive to outside wolves with which they are unfamiliar. They are quite adept predators. They're highly territorial. So when we then go back to the wild to try to redo this and take a wild animal into captivity, we do not have in a wolf a dog with an exotic look. We have a wild predator.
Despite the dangers, extreme animal owners often push the envelope.
Hello, baby boy.
And not only do R.C. and Sharon Bridges keep a bison as a pet, they also keep and breed wolves and wolf dogs.
We do sell our wolves. You know, we have so many people that really enjoy them. And a lot of them, they do make house pets out of them. We have lots of happy customers.
And one person said, "You can't keep a wolf in the house," and Sharon replied back, "We keep a buffalo in our house."
Yeah.
Don't tell me we can't keep a wolf in the house.
Yeah.
The most worried I was one time, we had wolf puppies. And of course, when they're born, the mamas are real protective. And she come running, and I knew I was fixing to get tore up by her, because she'd been real aggressive toward me ever since she had the puppies. And when she come after me, I grabbed her and threw her on the ground and held her down. And then she was growling and stuff, but anyway, I just backed off and she was fine.
Wolves live by a strict and ruthless social order, and owners must establish themselves as the pack leader or risk a vicious alpha challenge.
R.C., of course, as the dominant male of the family, he takes charge, and whenever he feels like he's comfortable with me jumping in, because he won't let me jump in and do anything without his okay first.
The way we do them, we keep 2 to 3 in a pen, and we never have any problem with them. We do have an alpha problem occasionally, and I got rid of a female lately because she was causing too many fights.
I raise these guys, and because of how I've worked with them, I think they view me as the top dog. They live in a sort of interesting structure. Biologists tell us that an alpha male and an alpha female will form. And basically what that means is the dominant pair will be the only one that will be allowed to breed. And nature is really cruel. Sometimes the other ones breed, but if they have a successful litter, the alpha male and female will just kill it. The way we raise them, these are very nice, but they're still, you can't take the jungle out of the boy. Nature designs them to be a certain way, and they're wild animals. Therein lies the difference between a domestic dog and this wolf. Even though this guy is just rolling on his back and I'm rubbing his belly, he's still a dangerous animal.
With a bite that can break bones, wolves may look just like exotic dogs, but can they make good pets?
I work with them all the time. I see them every day. No, they're horrible pets. I would never bring one to my house because I know they would be enthralled by my leather couch and they would perforate it with holes. They would rip up my carpet. They would tear down my blinds. I have faith that they would do that. I might be able to get them not to do that when I'm there, but if I walk away, I have faith that they will completely destroy everything when I'm not there. Conversely, when I've had domestic dogs, I train them so that I could trust them. We've basically trained our wild animals not only to behave, but just to be able to convey safely around society. But yeah, no, the wild animals I work with, I would never recommend as having as a pet.
Well, personally, for me and RC both, for us, I think it's great. But it's, with these kind of animals, it's not meant for just anybody to pick up and say, okay, I want to make them a pet. You have to be really dominant. You have to be their leader. If you're not going to be top charge, then no, then they're not going to be safe for a pet.
In spite of the danger, many, including RC and Sharon, still believe that a 100-pound predator can make a good house pet.
We bring all the wolves in the house. You know, we play with them, take pictures with them. Certain ones we'll let the grandkids play with. There's some of them that we won't let the grandkids play with. Ours make a good pet. Just like all animals, depending on how they're raised from beginning, really, is what makes good pets.
When I got in the wolf business, I thought I had a mean animal coming to me. And it wound up being the sweetest animal I've ever been around. And we always hear the stories about the big bad wolf. They're just unbelievably a gentle animal. I do think they're dangerous when you let them run in a pack.
I find you get what you put out. Conversely, if you have a child, a human, and you put it in a closet and 10 years later open the door, what are you going to have? If you have a bear or a lion or a wolf and you raise it appropriately and you get it used to the trappings of humanity and you take it everywhere and you teach it things and you love it, you will have a great animal that's capable of safely operating with other people in human society.
Don't let their looks deceive you. Wolves may resemble the family dog, but they are an apex predator, capable of taking down large prey and causing serious physical injury and even death.
If you're going to house a wolves and they were able to live in a wilderness area and come back to visit, but they certainly weren't put in a captive situation, that's kind of ideal. My wolves became my wolves because people thought they could turn them into dogs with proper training and found out the hard way, it doesn't work. You cannot train a wolf to be a dog.
The debate about whether circuses keeping exotic animals in captivity is right or wrong is gathering momentum. And circuses themselves are in a situation where they're having to consider their future and how their life could change. Regardless of your position on the subject, circuses are still traveling from town to town, entertaining enthusiastic audiences. Would that all change if the exotic animals were no longer there? Jan is the matriarch of the Stardust Circus, which tours around Australia with exotic animals as part of the show. Her family has been working with the animals for generations.
Really a family affair, the whole circus. There are 28 people on, counting all the babies, of course.
This circus is family run, and most of them have grown up working with exotic animals. It's a life they've always known, and they treat their animals as part of their family.
It's a pretty good life, really.
But what's it like to work in a circus with exotic animals?
We have the only 2 remaining circuses in Australia now with exotic animals, and we have both. We have 6 lions, 5 monkeys, and that's all in the way of exotics. The others are pigs, goats, dogs, horses. These animals have been born and bred in captivity, so they don't know any other life. So it's not like they've been plucked from the wild and suddenly they're, living this life. It's not that at all. And people don't seem to understand that. They seem to like the life they've got. I guarantee that. The wild isn't as great as what people make it out to be either.
In the wild, a lion can live up to 14 years. But at the circus, the lions can live up to 25 years without the stresses that come from living in their natural habitat.
Yeah, we treat them like family. They are our family. When we move to each place, they come first. They're set up before anything else. So to make sure they've got all their comforts of home, and even to the point if it's a hot day, the lions have their air conditioners turned on, and if not, they lay out in their yard and snooze all day, and they have a bit of a life of luxury here. They don't do any hard work of any sort. And they don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from.
The circus is regularly inspected by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to ensure they comply with all the necessary regulations.
A lot of councils have banned the grounds for exotics because the animal liberationists tell them so many lies about what we do to our animals, which doesn't happen at all. And they can make up some doozies, believe me, some of the stories they tell them. And God, we'd be in jail if we did half of what they tell them.
Jan has bred several lions over the life of the circus, which has provided an interesting story to the taxman.
We had cubs living in a caravan. They had a little bed under the table. And I'd say to them, righto, go to bed. I had some paperwork on the table. And my husband had the tax return sitting on there. Well, it fell down under the table and it got all chewed up by the cubs. We had to send it in like it was, put it in with a little note that these were chewed up by lions, you see. And so I was singing after it. I bet they thought, no, we've heard everything now, every excuse in the book. This one will take the cake.
Public safety and the safety of the lions is a high priority for the circus. And there's a double fence around the lions area for added protection.
We have barricades around and all that, and the lions do get locked away at night. We have security right around them with the caravans, so our own people are there all the time, 24 hours a day. And we very rarely ever have anybody come around that want to get in with the lions. If they do, they probably get eaten. No, I'm joking. They'll probably lick them to death.
The lions can be found lazing about in a large fenced-off grassed area to the rear of the big top, oblivious to the debate surrounding them. With social change, circuses are now under intense pressure from animal welfare groups that say it's cruel to keep animals in captivity, that they shouldn't be kept in small cages.
This is the cages that they can't turn around in. They're not big enough, aren't they, Glenn? They can't turn around in these. Cramped up in this. Some of it's funny. If it wasn't so stupid, it'd be funny, but they come out with some weirdo things.
These lions have lived like this since they were born at the circus. They have never been in the wild, so this is the only life they know. They are well looked after and safe from other predators and human encroachment to their natural habitat. Matt has worked with the lions since they were cubs, so they have built up an amazing level of trust. He spends up to an hour a day with them, training and the occasional cuddle. You can sense Matt has a special bond with his lions. His partner, Winona, is well aware of the dangers Matt faces every time he goes into the ring with the cats.
I feel like he's pretty safe, but it still is a bit of a worry. They are lions, so You know, you never really know. Hopefully he's aware at all times of what's going on, so he's, you know, they do love him, but, you know, sometimes you just never know with animals.
Matt has total respect for the lions in his care, and he knows when he enters the training area, there are 6 lions moving around him. He knows he can never drop his guard around these powerful predators.
When you're working with lions, especially if there's more than one in a cage, you need to make sure you know where they all are at all times. You need to know what they're looking at and where their focus is on. Their body language is a big thing, so the ears twitching and tail twitching, stance, if they're ready to pounce, if they're not ready to pounce, you know, pretty relaxed. So you just got to watch their eyes. Their eyes is a big thing. Usually you can tell from their eyes what they're thinking. So he's pretty relaxed. He's just watching Bart over there at the moment. But they're all pretty good. They all have their own personalities and moods, and sometimes they're in a good mood and sometimes they're not. And as long as you are paying attention, it's pretty safe.
Hello, boy. He's beautiful.
There is a lot of trust between the lions and Jan. Putting your hand inside a lion's cage is something that Jan doesn't recommend.
I wouldn't let any strangers do that. We know them pretty well and how far you could go with them. If they were not in a really flash mood, I wouldn't do it, but that's very rare. But now and again, just the other 2 bigger males will have a bit of a barney with each other about who's going to be the boss of the females. They are beautiful, gentle animals, and you would probably trust any animal, no more than about 95%, but they're just like a dog even. Who knows if a dog could ever turn.
So far, the lions have been relaxed, but there is a change in mood in the training area between 2 of the males, and we get a glimpse of what lions are capable of.
There's always that very, very, very slight chance, very slight. But so far, they've been really good. Hey! So what I mean, they're going to get the barney over the girl that... Hey! Stop it. Oi, stop it. Oi! Hey! Stop it. Stop it. I have a little barney every now and again. They don't do any damage to each other. Just for something to do, I think.
After the dust has settled and the brief altercation is over, the victor lies next to the female, while the jilted male looks across. Today, mating season has a winner and a loser.
He's a pretty good-natured lion, Hulk is. Very, very calm and relaxed usually. Not much scares him, so that's always a good thing. Some lions are very jumpy, which makes it hard to work with. Usually if they're like this, it's fine, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Something could get their attention out there and they could just run to chase that, or you know, someone could bite him on the bum while I'm playing with him. So I've got to be ready for everything. You right there, buddy? You right there, bud? You right there, mister? Yeah, you big goofball. You big goofball, hey? Yeah, you big goofball.
Not everyone agrees that keeping exotic animals in captivity is good for the animals. But Jan maintains they have a good life and are treated as part of the family.
Well, this is their air conditioning unit, so on a very hot day, the air conditioning goes on, so they're, boom, up into there and sprawled out. They've got little ledges and shelves up in there too that they sleep on. They like to go high.
We hand raise them. They live in Glenn's caravan for the first 6 months. My wife can't handle the smell. So Glenn gets the first 6 months, which is waking up at 3 in the morning to bottle feed, and it's just like having a baby. And then they start tearing up the furniture. And the first probably year we trained out here in the yard just to get all the basics down, like staying on the pedestal and stuff like that. So we train out here so anybody can come and watch. Every day, it's just playtime in here. Here's just mutual ground, you know. In there, I'm the boss, we do the jobs, and out here is playtime, so.
Kid.
It's all reward-based, so they know what to do, and they're always wanting to do it before I ask them to instead of waiting for their turn. So they really want to do it. It's just getting them to wait is the hard bit. So they eat out of my hand, usually some nice fresh horse or something. And if they're full, they don't want it, and if they're too hungry, they'll take your hand with it. So you've got to sort of keep them at that stage where they're not hungry, but they're not too full to eat.
You can never underestimate the power of one of the largest felines in the world. In the wild, they work together to hunt their prey. Lionesses do most of the hunting for the pride, each having different roles and working together efficiently to bring down their prey, using their vice-like jaw to snap the victim's neck and drag it to the ground. The lions might be the resident stars of the circus, but the rhesus macaque monkeys are another exotic that looks cute at first sight, but can attack if they don't know you.
Oh, it's beautiful, boys. It's a beautiful boy. Here's you one beautiful boy. The two in this cage are the youngest two that we've got. But they don't take kindly to strangers. They're not an animal that anyone could get in with or anything. Don't get too close to them. They'll grab your glasses off. They're a bit naughty. Especially the people they don't know, more so.
We have 5 now. 2 of them really love me. The other 3, they like me, but not as much as the 2. I have trained Cleo to do hand balancing, so I work Cleo in the show.
Some might say it's cruel to make animals perform tricks, but they are never forced to do them. And if they don't want to do it, they'll soon let their trainer know.
They do bite, but everyone knows when they're out, just to make sure they keep away from the people who can't handle them.
According to Matt, rhesus macaque monkeys are charismatic, but they also have a vicious streak. So you need to think on your feet when working with them.
So you just got to sort of work with whatever they're willing to put out. They have a short attention span also, so you can't work too long with them. So when you're training, you do a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, and they'll tell you when they're fed up, and so you move on to something else. They get bored pretty quick. This is Cleo. She's an 11-year-old rhesus macaque. She's the baby. The monkeys are good. There's always like a attitude from them, so it gives you something to deal with. And they only like a couple of people usually, so they get attached to a couple of people, and everybody else is sort of, fair game. Cleo here is she's pretty smart. She knows how to undo the clip on her collar. So sometimes in the show when we have to, in between tricks, she just has to wait. And sometimes if you're not watching, she'll unclip herself, go to the table, get a treat, and then head back home, put herself away again. Millie, the one in here that stays with Cleo, she's got a lot of attitude. She's willing to attack anybody, really. She's just full on. Family more than pets. Yeah, they're part of the family. They get all the best of everything.
The average macaque can grow up to 2 feet high and weigh up to 15 pounds. It's a small package, but when aggressive, nasty bites and the risk of disease are consequences of getting too close.
Well, they're not really wild. They've been with us their whole life, but there is still the instinct in there. Animals don't think like humans. That's where the people go wrong. Animals have their own thought processes and their own way of doing things. So to us, like something we would think is nice, they think is you just letting them do whatever they want.
It's showtime, and the exotics are preparing to make an appearance to their adoring public. There are preparations that need to happen in the ring to make sure everyone is safe.
Please welcome here into the Steel Arena, Star Circus, Australian born and bred, Performing Lions!
Jan and her family enjoy sharing these animals with the public. But today's circuses are finding themselves going through a transition, deciding if they will continue including exotic animals as part of the show or need to bend to the pressures of social change to stop keeping animals in cages. These could be the last of the lions at this circus. They will not be breeding any more of them, so once these unique animals have retired, it is unlikely there will be any bred lions thrilling the audience. Time will tell as to how circuses with exotic animals will evolve under the big top in the years to come. Located in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California, the small city of Big Bear Lake is a popular holiday destination. The region draws thousands of tourists, and its picturesque surroundings have been used as locations for many Hollywood classics, including Daniel Boone, Gone with the Wind, and even Disney's Old Yeller. But Big Bear Lake is also known as the location of a much more shocking filming project. The tranquil mountains of Big Bear are a world away from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. They're also home to the well-known Hollywood animal trainer and stuntman, Randy Miller. Randy's company, Predators in Action, specializes in location and studio-trained exotic animals.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely built Predators in Action with no fear. We still do push the envelope, but back in the day, we really pushed the envelope. And I mean in every way. It could be a stunt, doing a staged attack, or even just a simple model shoot with a tiger crawling on a girl that the cat's never seen before. We did things back then we probably wouldn't do today.
Drawn to animals from a young age, Randy's family was in the seltzer business, and during the 80s, he helped turn the family business into a $100 million a year company. He lived an extravagant lifestyle and used his successful business fortune to indulge his childhood dream of owning big cats, bears, and other exotic animals.
Back in the day, I had great resources to, accommodate these types of animals and to just to get the permits and permission to have them. Basically have them with me wherever I go. And that's really what I did. We built a house in the Hollywood Hills with a 3-story glass cage. It was designed, for big exotic animals. I didn't have any animals live there full time. I had a place out in the desert where I kept all my animals. And I used to bring them in to visit while I was in Hollywood, just so I could always have my animals around.
When the family business went bankrupt, Randy was forced to find another way to both earn a living and keep his dangerous pets. He turned his eccentric hobby into a career and began supplying big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves for big-budget Hollywood movies and high-rating TV shows. His signature stunt was the staged attack, where his animals staged realistic but harmless attacks. He created a unique and potentially life-threatening product.
My staged attack was not taught. Nobody teaches you that. It was developed back in those days, like in that house with that glass cage. I used to wrestle my animals and play with them. I mean, the reason I used to wrestle and play with my animals was because of the joy I got out of it and the fun it was. But the animals bond so much stronger when you have that kind of interaction. They just do. I mean, the key to an animal's heart is to play and have fun. And those lions and tigers, bears, they love to wrestle and play. So I think most of us wrestle and play with younger animals. As they get older, it becomes much more dangerous. My whole staged attack developed out of playing with these animals as they matured and just learning how to control it.
Years of high-risk training with ferocious carnivores yielded the ultimate Hollywood payoff. When Miller won a Stunt Academy Award, for his role as Russell Crowe's stunt double during the tiger attack scenes in the blockbuster movie Gladiator.
Once I focused on doing film work with these animals, and I really focused on training them to be in movies, that's what we were training for, was that scene, not even knowing it. But I mean, I would say our whole career put us there. That tiger was raised its whole life to play out all that action you see in that scene. You know, the lunging, the jumping, the snarling, and that staged attack. I got bit on that show. There were a lot of staged attack scenes, and it required a lot of takes, over and over. Attacks from the back, attacks from the front. While filming one of those attack scenes, Tara, the tiger I was using, ended up grabbing the wardrobe, which was leather. So she grabbed it, and, you know, she got possessive over it, is what happened. And she ended up biting. She tried to take it from me, and she bit through it and put a hole in my arm. So at that time, they cut and said, hey, we got it, done. Went, undressed, got out of wardrobe. They bandaged up my arm, and then a PA comes in and says, hey, the main camera broke. We don't know when the film actually broke, so we got to go out and refilm all that. Like the special effects camera. They got me back out there. They put a steel plate over the wound, and we started doing it again. And the only reason I was able to continue doing that attack after getting bit pretty bad was I understood why she bit me. You know, she wasn't really biting me. She didn't go after me out of anger. She went after the wardrobe and got possessive over it.
Between 1990 and 2011, there were over 300 incidents involving captive big cats in the U.S. 20 people were killed. Over the same time, captive bears killed 6 and injured 61. Working alongside predators is never 100% safe for the humans involved. American Humane is responsible for making sure that the work is safe for the animals.
Our job is really just to make sure it's done well. Our primary mission is to oversee, basically police, the care, the safety, the humane treatment of the animals while they're on set. The others want to debate whether it's philosophically okay to use these animals. So when I'm asked, you know, should these animals be used, look, we could sit here for 3 hours, 4 hours, and probably not arrive to a decent answer. But when I tell you, look, my job is to make sure that the animals that are participating, are being used in these environments, are cared for properly, that is really our job and our mission.
Big cats, grizzly bears, and wolves are popular movie stars, and they're all capable of removing human limbs in seconds. Even a monkey can cause serious lacerations and injury. Strict safety protocols are always in place, but when dealing with unpredictable natural predators, safety measures aren't always 100% effective.
You know, on the good sets, in my experience, on the controlled film sets that hire the right people, who care for their animals, who've had the time, put in the time to train them properly and go through all the preventative measures. In instances like that, I think it's very safe. I think it's very controlled and safe. Now, as it often is, it comes down to hiring the right people, right? Getting the right team around you. Because if you get someone who doesn't have the experience, you're gonna be in trouble.
One thing with my line of work, we have developed one of the best safety protocols there is. I mean, you need a fast plan if something goes wrong. And we all learned, even with that, the ultimate price can get paid, you know? These animals are capable of taking somebody's life in a matter of seconds. So my position, knowing that, anybody handling these animals, not just owning these animals, but working around these animals, should have the education and experience to participate in stopping or helping save somebody's life if there's an accident or an attack taking place.
Many exotic pet owners raise their animals from babies, building a strong bond and creating a sense of trust. it can be easy to forget that such majestic and affectionate creatures can also be ruthless killers.
There could be a false sense of security there where you believe it's safer than it really is.
Fire department emergency, how can I? Hi, fireman with the transfer. She's at Onyx Summit. Off Rainbow Lane. He's bleeding from his neck heavily. Hold on, ma'am. She's at Onyx Summit off of Rainbow Lane. There's a bear. We think it's an animal attack. Okay. Yes, or a bear attack. A bear attack.
Until you've experienced, what can happen, how fast things can change, you don't really have a clue. And unfortunately, it takes a tragic, accident to really experience what I'm talking about.
A bear attack, okay.
He's bleeding heavily from his neck. We're trying to get him into the car. We need someone here immediately.
And you do this long enough. I know people that have been doing this for generations, and you talk to guys that have been doing this for a long time, we've all experienced something.
In 2008, Randy's cousin, Stephen Miller, was fatally wounded while shooting a promotional video at Randy's Big Bear property. Stevie's co-star and killer was a 700-pound, 7.5-foot grizzly bear named Rocky. The attack was swift and completely unexpected.
We weren't ready for what happened. That's how fast it is. That's how fast it can happen. I mean, if you actually time it, once it started, it was like 3.5 seconds. It all happened really fast. So we stopped it, and actually Stevie appeared to be okay. We later learned it was a fatal bite, one single bite.
5-year-old Rocky had been trained to wrestle humans and was best known for his appearance as Dewey the Killer Bear in the 2008 film Semi-Pro.
Stevie wanted to wrestle Rocky. He had experience in the past. Rocky was a great candidate for wrestling somebody that, wasn't doing it all the time. The authorities deemed it an accident based on the injuries. They could tell by the injuries what type of attack or bite took place. They ruled it a single bite in Rocky's case.
Although that single bite left a profound scar on Randy, incredibly, he still lives with and cares for Rocky the Bear.
A lot of people love animals and say they love animals, but some people, like myself, love them so much they have to be with them. And I think that's the difference. It's easy for somebody to criticize what we do, but they may not have that same desire. I know from experience, I have that desire. That's more important to me than anything else. Keeping my animals, caring for my animals' welfare. I mean, that's what got me into what I do. It really is. It started out as a hobby, and it turned into a profession. You hear about an animal that attacks somebody that had never, had an incident in the past until that moment. And that was the moment with Rocky.
Working so closely with these types of animals, owners develop a close relationship with an animal that, in the wild, would see them as prey. Perhaps surprisingly, American Humane's Quan Stewart sees that bond as beneficial for the animals too.
This gets into a very big ethical debate. Should these exotics be in film? And, if you have the right people with the right expertise, it can provide the right long-term care for these animals. Yes, I think it's okay. A lot of these animals are domesticated at a very young age. They're used to human contact. They enjoy human contact.
I mean, there's a reward there, especially with a creature that could take your life in a matter of seconds. Maybe part of that starts, from the adrenaline rush you get with it, but there's a lot more to it than that. There really is. These animals do show affection. And exotic cats, I've always said, are the most affectionate creatures on Earth. And they are. They will sit with you for hours showing affection. I mean, they're moody, and that's what makes them dangerous. It's kind of like a dog, where they're very friendly and fun. And it usually takes a while before you see their instincts come out, but eventually they will. And all these animals get possessive, and it might be something you didn't see until that moment. And when they get like that, it doesn't matter how much they love you, they'll kill you over anything. It's just in their instincts. It's just in their DNA.
Today, Randy remains close to his collection of unusual and dangerous pets. 7 big cats and several bears, including Rocky.
I can tell you this, if you put somebody near one of these animals, there is a chance something could go wrong. There is.